Jen, and welcome to another stamping and scrapbooking video. Before I get started, I wanted to give you a little bit of background on what I'm going to be doing. So this is a page where I have kind of a long story. I've already gone ahead and typed it out on my computer. I have an old Epson Workforce 1100 printer that's a wide format printer, so I just went ahead and did that. But of course, you could just print it on a regular printer or handwrite this or whatever, you know, if you want to use a similar design. But this layout is all about a restaurant that is a really big deal in our family, and it was getting a facelift, and it made me kind of feel really nostalgic. Like they just kind of remodeled it and made it a little bit bigger and, you know, freshened it up. But it really made me very nostalgic and thinking about how it has affected our lives. And so that's what the journaling's all about. But in part of the journaling talks about how even after 16 years, we could still eat there every day. And so I thought it would be fun to use the stamp set that I used in last week's video, which is this one from Close to My Heart, and it's called Dated. And it has like the months of the year, and then it has like in a circle, and then it has them all written out, and then it also has the days of the week. And so I thought it would be fun to kind of just stamp all along the left-hand side of this layout with those months of the year. So that's what I'm going to plan on doing, is stamping kind of like a little, the circles all the way down the layout to kind of represent the everyday. And so I accidentally, my printer messed up on this copy, and so this is going to be my practice sheet, which is perfect because that way I don't have to mess up this sheet that's that looks correct. I can try it on this one, and I'm planning to place my photo somewhere like right here. I want to have an equal distance all around the edges, and so I'm keeping that in mind. And then I'll put the title, which is just going to be the name of the restaurant, Taco Amigo, on the side right there, and then have all of my stamping on this side. So there might not even be patterned paper unless I decide to map my photo. We'll see. So I'm going to go ahead and put you on fast forward and get started with that. So before I actually stamp these, what I'm going to do is lay out the circles all the way down the side of the layout so I can kind of get a feel for how much space I need to leave between each circle. And I'm just making some of them go off the page because I feel like it makes that element of the layout look like it belongs there and like it's part of the layout rather than its own separate thing kind of. And I'm making it so some of the circles overlap and some of them don't. And I don't want it to be too even. I want it to kind of look like they're just dotted around. And here I'm showing you I'm going to use a rainbow of colors. And I'm using ink pads from Close to My Heart. Some of the ink pads that I have are prototype ink pads. Oh, I'm just showing you I was actually drinking a beverage from Taco Amigo because me and my daughter went there for dinner earlier in the day. And I'm taking a photo of where I've placed those. And again, this is just my practice sheet. So I'm just going to practice stamping all of them down the side. I started with some poppy ink. Now I'm going to orange. And I'm just going, like I said, in a rainbow. When you check out the still photos, be sure to look at where the inks overlap, because when they dry and sink into the paper, where the inks overlap looks really cool. So I'm just referencing the photo that I took. You can see to the left. And I just placed an Amy Tangerine, those little pads that you get for the stitching guides. I placed that underneath my layout just so that I can give myself a little bit of a cushion while I'm stamping, and that helps you get a cleaner impression with a more solid stamp like this one. And a mouse pad would give you the same kind of deal. So you can see that March didn't stamp very cleanly. My Gold Rush ink is kind of drying up, and so I will remedy that here in a minute. So I went Poppy, Orange, Gold Rush, then I did Saffron, Honey, and now I'm using Buttercup. These are, again, all inks from Close to My Heart. I have a ton of Close to My Heart inks because I used to work there. And now I'm getting this color, which is called Flaxen, and it's kind of in between green and yellow. It's a really awesome neutral color. I love that color. So next I'm going for Fern Ink, which is one of their newer colors, and it's really a pretty green. And then I am going to stamp New England Ivy, which is a dark green. And I really like this mixture of colors. It looks really nice with the photo, and it's a rainbow, but it's kind of like a soft colored rainbow. And I didn't include pink or purple. So there you can see that. And now I'm going to do Peacock, which is a beautiful deep blue. I love this color. And stamp October. And then I will do November in Crystal Blue and December in Glacier. And Glacier is one of my favorite colors as well. It's kind of that soft blue color. And I wanted to do the brighter blue because it matches the sky. So that's why I chose Crystal. And here I'm going to do Glacier. So I'm going to slow back down and talk to you for a second after I stamp December. Okay, so this is just my practice sheet, which I'm glad because I realized that this ink color isn't very inky, and so I'm going to see if I have a re-inker in that color, because I might, and re-ink that. Other than that, I really love the colors because it pulls out the colors in the photo. And I knew I wanted to do a rainbow, but I really love the way it's playing off the photo because you can see that the reds and oranges are in kind of this door here and this little crate. And then we've got some yellows, and there's a little bit of yellow in this worker and in the sun. And then we go to greens, which is in the sign and the very top of the roof, and this little, it's hard to see, but there's like a little garbage can right there, and then some blues for the sky. And so I really love the way that looks, and it's just kind of a cool element, and that is going to be the main focus of my layout. Now I'm going to re-stamp this on the other page, but I'm not going to make you watch that. I will let you know that I am going to move this October, I think, over to the edge because I like the way that it comes off the edge right here, but I didn't do that toward the bottom at all. And so I'm going to move the October over. And then I might unsquish these just a little bit because I had a little bit more room than I was anticipating and overlap the November and December more. I really like the way that the inks look when they're overlapped. And when they dry like completely, it looks even cooler because these are dye inks. They will sink into the paper and dye the paper. And so they'll dry and smooth out and look even better than they do now. So I really like the way that's looking. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp this all out on my actual layout, and it's going to look pretty much just like this, and then I'll come right back. Okay, so now I have got all of these circles stamped on, and I just wanted to mention really quickly that I let the stamp set... Whoa, I can't talk. I let the stamp set influence my layout this time. So I want you to not be afraid to let products drive your story. When I saw this stamp set, I thought this would be great for Project Life, but I don't really do Project Life. And so I thought, what was another thing that I could document? And I already had this photo printed off because I knew I wanted to tell some sort of story with it. And so I thought about how this stamp set, like, if I were to use a whole bunch of the elements from it all together, would drive a story about everyday life or all through the year or something like that. And so that helped me fuel my story for this. And so I want you to think about your stamp sets not only as like if you're really trying to use the stamp sets that you have, maybe sometimes let the stamp set guide the story that you're going to tell. The other thing I wanted to point out was that I used a different color for every single circle on here. Now, I don't expect you all to have as many ink pads as I do. I've mentioned this before. I used to work for Close to My Heart, which is a stamping company, and so I have a lot of ink pads. Definitely don't think you have to have this amount of ink pads. You could definitely do this in just a few colors and repeat the pattern. I also think that you can create multiple colors by layering inks on top of each other. Dye inks work best for these kind of techniques. Also, if you do a second generation inking. So let me show you what I mean. Oh, I also wanted to let you know that Gold Rush ink the ink pad was really dry. I did not have a Gold Rush re-inker, but I did have Taffy, which is actually like a really peachy, soft, it's not pink, like it's this color here. And I put it on my Gold Rush ink pad and it just kind of revived it. The color's a little bit softer than it used to be, but it definitely worked out in my favor. So let me just show you what I mean by how you can use just a few colors to overlap them or to try some different techniques to get a variety of colors rather than using a whole bunch. So let's go ahead and start with red. I've got my huge stack here. Now I used a different color for every single one. So let me just show you really quickly what they are. So Poppy, I'm going in color order. Poppy, Orange, Gold Rush, Saffron, Honey, Buttercup, Flaxen, which is one of my favorite colors. It's this color right here. It's kind of like a greenish, tannish, perfect neutral. Fern, New England Ivy, Peacock, Crystal Blue, and Glacier. So those are the colors that I used. Now I want to show you how if you have certain colors overlap really nicely to create new colors, and you can stamp things on top of each other to get varying colors. So let me show you, for example, I haven't pre-tested these, I should have, but I'm going to show you what Glacier and Buttercup look like when you stamp them together. So I'm just going to grab the little March circle. The awesome thing about clear stamps like this is that you can see through them, so this won't be too hard for me to line up. So I'm just inking it up. Let me zoom in actually here so you can actually see. So I inked up my stamp. And then I'm going to stamp that down. Oh boy, sorry about the focus there. Okay, I'm going to wipe that off. I'm going to make sure I get all of the residue from the wipe off, just because I don't want the wetness to change the coloring of my stamp at all, because it won't go full strength if it's wet, kind of, you know. So I'm just inking up the yellow now, and I'm just going to line up my stamp, and pardon me while I stick my head in here, and stamp it over the top. And now you can see that I've got kind of a greenish color by using those two colors. So now what I could do is I have that middle color, and then I could overlap with the yellow on one side and the blue on the other, and I have a perfect middle tone. So you can see that the difference between the three colors, and that's a really great way to get a little bit more use out of your ink pads if you don't have very many. The other thing I wanted to show you, and this works especially good with darker inks, the stamping like this, you'll have to experiment with the inks, because depending on the amount of pigmentation in the ink and what colors they are, it'll work better with lighter colors, but some darker colors will work too. So just kind of an FYI. I wanted to show you how with darker inks, you can get a couple of different colors by just stamping it more than once. So I call this second generation stamping. So you ink up your stamp, stamp it down, and then without inking it again, you stamp it again. And so you can see I get like a lighter pink shade by stamping it the second time without inking it up again. And sometimes you can even get a third one out of it. This one's really super light, but if you're doing an ombre, that's kind of a fun look. So you can experiment with that as well. Just wanted to show you a few ways that you can get a couple of different colors if you don't have a whole bunch of ink pads in your arsenal. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put you back on fast forward while I finish up the layout. I pulled out a few different sets of thickers that I might try to use for the title. I want something kind of neutral since I've got a lot going on over here on the side, so I'm leaning towards these ones if I have the letters. I haven't checked them yet. So I'm going to go ahead and put you on fast forward and we'll get started.
So I am going to start by trying those lighter thickers, and I'm just grabbing a piece of wax paper to put my title on so I can move it around. And I'm glad I did this time because I sure moved it around a lot. And these are some older thickers from an Amy Tangerine collection. I think it's one of the first ones that she had, and they're just kind of, they're gray, but they have like a little crisscross on them, a white, it's like a white grid at a diagonal. and they're really nice. And I really apologize for my focus. I tried just keeping the focus fixed rather than having it be on auto, but then I found that sometimes it was a little bit off. So I hope you'll bear with me as I continue to try to figure that out. So I'm just playing around with the letters, and I thought maybe that I wanted some smaller alphabet stickers for the word taco. So I'm looking through my stash to see what I can find, but the letters are going to be too small for my liking. So those first stickers that I pulled out were from an old Fancy Pants collection, and these ones are some Project Life, and they actually end up being a bit of a warmer gray than what I want, and I just don't like that the word Amigo is emphasized more than the word taco. They both need to be emphasized. So I'm going to go back to the thickers here in just a second, and I'm going to play with the orientation a lot on this one. I couldn't decide if I wanted to separate the words from all of the circles on the left-hand side because they all have words in them. So I thought about a few different ways that I could place these, and then I thought I could put the photo above the title and have the title rest on top of the journaling, which I actually really like, but then I am left with a space that's smaller on the bottom than it is on the top, and I didn't want to redo this, and so I'm going to try to tuck my photo underneath it, but I don't like the way that looks, and so I'm going to pull them all off, and I'm going to again go back to my original idea, putting the photo a little bit to the right and the title just to the left of the photo there. So in this instance, because there's not a lot of paper or anything else going on, I was being very picky about how things lined up on the tops and the sides and above the journaling and all of that. And so I want equal distance between objects. And so now I'm looking through some of my chipboard pieces to see if there's anything small that I can add. I don't end up adding any paper, but I will find a couple of things from a super old crepe paper. I think it's like homespun or homemade. And I pull a couple of chipboard pieces off of that chipboard sheet. I pulled Traditions, Love You, and Memories. And the memories will eventually go away. I mean, the memories sticker, not the actual memories. I found this perfect sticker on the Dear Lizzie documentary sticker sheet that said, All Our Yesterdays. So in the journaling, I talk about how Taco Amigo was my first job, and my husband and I met there, and my brother-in-law owns it, and how we could go there every single day. And so All Our Yesterdays was really the perfect sticker for that. I'm going to pull a little heart sticker off the new Maggie Holmes Shine collection sticker sheet. Oh, I think it's from that. It might be from something else, but I will make sure to link it below if it's available. And I will add some puffy heart stickers here in just a minute too from the crepe paper. Oh no, Pink Paisley Harvest Lane or Autumn Lane or something like that. So I'm just looking for some more embellishment. When I add very few things, I'm a little bit more picky about what goes on because you will definitely see everything that I add to this layout. And I want the focus really to be on the photo, the story, and all of that stamping. And so the rest of it is just kind of like just adding a little bit to it. So I don't want to add too much. So I'm looking through some puffy stickers, and I'm going to pull out a bunch of different ones before I find the Cedar Lane. That's what it's called. The Cedar Lane collection from Pink Paisley, and there's a couple of little puffy hearts that I'm going to use from that. Right now I'm looking through the Close to My Heart Fundamental stickers, and these are like little sticker packs that they have in the different color families of their inks, so I thought that I might find something to match in there, but I just didn't find anything that I wanted to use this time. And so, like I said, I'm going to go back to those Cedar Lane puffy stickers, not before looking through a few other things, but I'm just, I guess, having fun looking through my products. Sometimes I do that. I like looking through all of my stuff to kind of find the perfect little addition. That chipboard heart is from the same chipboard sheet as the Traditions and the Love You. It actually would have worked really nicely, but I want to keep the embellishment so that it goes in rainbow order from top to bottom the same way that the stamping does. And I didn't want to put chipboard by more chipboard up there at the top. I like the flat sticker with those chipboard little label pieces that say Traditions and Love You, and so I decided against it. So now I'm going to glue everything down, and I'm just kind of fixing my title so it's nice and aligned. And you'll notice that I overlapped the O in Amigo onto the photo, and I made it so that the photo doesn't cut down the center of the O. I made it so that all of like one picture is enclosed into the O, if that makes sense. And I'm just about done here. I'm going to, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull out the stamp set again. So I took the Sunday through Saturday stamp and I'm just stamping it a few times above the photo. And then I'm going to there's a stamp for each day of the week. I'm going to take them and take the colors that I previously stamped in and stamp the days of the week next to the colored circles. So you can see Mondays in red up next to January, then I'll do Tuesday in orange next to February. And I'm going to go all the way down the side to stamp all of the days of the week in the colors next to the circles, if that makes sense. And I really like what that adds to the layout. Just kind of emphasizes that the everyday kind of theme. Zoomed in just a little bit so you could see what I was doing. You'll notice that as I'm stamping these words, I'm stamping them in the spaces next to the circles. So if the circle goes out to the right a little bit, then I'll stamp the word to the left of it all the way down. January, I wish I would have stamped the Monday up above February, but I didn't, and it's done, so it's just going to stay like that, and that's okay. And I'm just going to keep continuing all the way down. I maybe should have zoomed out here or moved my page up, but I don't think I do, so sorry about that. But I'm just doing the same thing and matching up the colors and stamping the days of the week all the way down toward the bottom. And then I'm going to cut off the edge of that sticker, and there I've zoomed back out and you can see kind of how I'm going to finish up here. I added a couple of silver enamel dots there, and I'm going to take off the word memories, but it'll stay for now, and I do end up stapling a little bit here and there.
Okay, so that is going to call this layout finished. I hope that you'll take your stamp sets and let them maybe fuel an idea for you, or think of a different way that you can use them. Try maybe doing a rainbow, or layering up your ink pads to get different colors out of them, or doing second generation stamping. I hope that you're enjoying this series where I show you how to use your stamps in maybe different ways than you've tried before and get those used up on your layouts, because stamps are beautiful, but sometimes we forget to use them. So make them the star of the show, tell a story, and if you want to see the other layouts in this series, be sure to check out the playlist that's called Stamping in Scrapbooking. There are 6 previous videos from this one. And if you have any questions, just leave me a comment below. You can head over to my blog at CraftyJenSchow.com, where I'll have much more information, as well as links to the products that I use that are available. These close to my heart stamps that I've used, you have to order them through a consultant. I will link to the Close to My Heart website below, and it will link you up with a consultant if you don't have one already, if you're interested in these stamps. And the other things I can probably link to. So thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate your support. We'll see you again next week.
Here are some close-up photos, and I just again wanted to mention that I took off that Memories chipboard piece at the bottom, and I ended up stamping the date. There's 2 separate dates, one for the photo and one for the journaling. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.